You know, when you think about rock and roll, you often picture these huge bands, right? Massive lineups, walls of guitars, keyboards, the whole shebang. But there's this one simple, powerful formula that has, time and time again, proven to be absolutely killer. 3 musicians, 3 instruments. Today, we're diving deep into rock's leanest, meanest, and most explosive format, the power trio.
And that really is the central question, isn't it? It's the paradox that makes this whole thing so cool. How on earth can just a guitar, a bass, and a set of drums create a sound that feels so massive, so complete? I mean, it doesn't quite make sense on paper, but as we're about to see, some of the most legendary bands in history use this very setup to become absolute giants.
So what is a power trio at its core? Well, think of it this way. There is absolutely nowhere to hide. You don't have a rhythm guitarist or a keyboard player to fill out the sound. Every single member has to step up. They've got to play bigger, they've got to play smarter, and they have to get way more creative. And that's not a weakness. That's the secret sauce. It's the very thing that forces them to innovate and unleashes all that raw energy.
All right, so to really get this, we've got to jump in the time machine and go way back to where it all began. See, the power trio didn't just slowly come into being. Nope, it was more like an explosion, erupting right in the middle of the electric blues and psychedelic boom of the mid-1960s. This was the moment the rule book for this whole sound was being written from scratch.
So, picture this. It's 1966. The place? London. And almost out of nowhere, at the exact same time, 2 bands pop up that would literally define what a power trio could be. On one hand, you had Cream, basically rock's first ever supergroup, and on the other, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, a sonic force that was about to turn the world of guitar music completely upside down.
Let's talk about Cream. Their sound was just colossal, and it was all about chemistry. So you've got Eric Clapton ripping these incredible blues rock solos, but the thing is, the foundation under him was anything but simple. Jack Bruce wasn't just holding down the low end on his bass, he was playing it like a second lead guitar, weaving these complex melodic lines that filled up all the space. And driving the whole thing was Ginger Baker, whose jazz background meant his drumming was this powerful, complex storm of rhythm. They were basically 3 masters having a brilliant musical conversation, or maybe an argument.
Okay, so while Cream was doing their thing, the Experience was taking the same 3-piece idea and blasting it into another dimension. Jimi Hendrix, what can you even say? He was a true sonic wizard, wrestling sounds out of his guitar that nobody had ever even dreamed of. But he could only do that because his rhythm section was so locked in. Noel Redding's bass was that solid melodic anchor he needed, while Mitch Mitchell's drumming wasn't just keeping time, it was fluid, dynamic, and it was reacting to everything Jimi did. The 3 of them together created this swirling, incredible vortex of sound.
So the 60s wind down, and we roll into the 70s. And the power trio, man, it was just getting started. It turned out to be the perfect vehicle for the wild ambitions of progressive rock and the pure, bone-shaking volume of hard rock.
And if we're talking about stretching the limits of what a trio can do, you have to talk about Rush. These guys made 3 musicians sound like a full-blown symphony. I mean, think about it. You've got Geddy Lee playing these unbelievable lead melodies on his bass, while singing and playing keyboards with his feet. Then there's Alex Lifeson creating these huge atmospheric textures with his guitar. And behind it all, the late great Neil Peart, who wasn't just a drummer, he was a precision machine and the soul of the band with his lyrics. They were literally architects of sound.
Yeah, that quote really just nails it, doesn't it? Rush proved that you could be incredibly complex, incredibly smart, and still be crushingly heavy. They showed the world that with just 3 instruments, the possibilities were truly, absolutely limitless.
But you know, the 70s wasn't all about complexity. Way down in Texas, ZZ Top was perfecting a completely different kind of power. Their genius was making it all sound so simple. You had Billy Gibbons' iconic bluesy guitar tone just locked into this perfect groove with Dusty Hill and Frank Beard. When we say in the pocket, we mean the bass and drums were so tight they sounded like one single, unstoppable, head-bobbing machine. It was just pure, dirty rock and roll, and it showed how durable this format really was.
Okay, let's fast forward. We're hitting the 80s and 90s, and things are about to get shaken up. As a reaction to all the excess of the 70s, punk and alternative music came along and grabbed the power trio for a totally different reason. It wasn't about showing off, it was about raw, immediate, rebellious energy. It was time to strip rock music back down to the bone.
And just to show you how ridiculously versatile this format is, look at these 2 bands, The Police and Motorhead. I mean, talk about polar opposites. The Police were all about space and subtlety,
weaving in bits of reggae and jazz to create this really cool textured sound. And Motorhead, they were a freight train. Just pure, relentless speed and aggression, louder and faster than pretty much anyone else. Same number of guys, two completely different worlds.
And that's really why the punk and alternative scenes just latched onto the power trio. For them, it was all about attitude and energy. The format was perfect. It was cheap, it was loud, and it put all the focus right on the song and the passion behind it. It was a straight shot of music with zero filter.
And all of that leads us right to Nirvana, probably the most culturally important power trio ever. Kurt Cobain's genius was taking these beautiful, catchy melodies and smashing them together with punk rock anger. You know, that quiet verse, loud chorus thing? That was everything. Chris Novoselic's bass lines might have seemed simple, but they were the rock-solid foundation for it all. And then you had Dave Grohl on drums, just a hurricane of explosive energy. The three of them together perfectly captured the sound of a generation.
And then came the moment. The year was 1991. That's when their album Nevermind dropped, and everything, and I mean everything, changed. Nirvana took the power trio to the very top of the charts, and in doing so, they completely changed the sound of mainstream rock for the next decade.
So here we are. We've gone through decades of different styles, new technology, all of it. So why? Why does this simple three-person setup still feel so fundamental, so incredibly powerful? What's the secret?
Well, it really seems to boil down to a few key things. First, you get this incredible musical synergy. Every single note from every player matters, so they have to be totally locked in. Second, it just forces innovation. You have to find new ways to make your instrument sound huge. Third, you get that raw, direct punch that's impossible to ignore. And finally, with fewer people involved, it's easier to have a really focused, pure creative vision.
But look, it's not always easy. It's kind of a double-edged sword. That amazing synergy puts a ton of pressure on every musician to be on their A-game all the time. That creative freedom? Yeah, that can also lead to some serious headbutting between big personalities. And all that raw power can sometimes mean you lose a little bit of sonic detail. It's always been a high-risk, high-reward kind of deal.
And the crazy thing is, the story's not over. It's still evolving. You look at a modern band like Muse, and they've totally rewritten the rules. They use technology to make the classic lineup sound absolutely gigantic. I mean, Matt Bellamy runs his guitar through so many effects it barely sounds like a guitar anymore. And they use all kinds of tech to create these massive layered soundscapes live on stage. It just goes to show that the core chemistry of a trio is still the perfect launchpad for innovation. So that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about, right? In today's world where one person with a laptop can create an entire orchestra, is there something more essential, more human, about the raw, undeniable chemistry of just three people in a room making a huge, amazing noise together? Is that connection maybe more vital now than it's ever been?